Guys, thank you so much for tuning in.
Using concrete or old thick wood with
And as long as you beat that, there's no going wrong. It's the key to success.
That's crazy.
But interesting topic that we can continue.
You have got to see this.
We're here today, guys, on the yellow couch, and today's theme is actually how to invest in Bali safely for a long-term, healthy investment. We chose today Matthieu. That's a multi-entrepreneur in real estate industry here in Bali. So could you tell us maybe a bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone. Thank you for having me. Real estate entrepreneur in Bali since 6 years, 8 years in Indonesia, and we do pretty much everything around real estate in Bali. We buy, we sell, we develop, we invest, we manage properties as well. And my background before moving to Bali, I was managing hotels for Accor, and I started in finance in Paris.
Nice.
So first finance, then operation, and then moving to Bali to surf a little bit, and
Nice.
To do real estate.
Okay.
And trying to do it properly. It's important.
Nice. So maybe tell us, because many people are interested by what Bali has to offer in terms of return on investment, but also lifestyle. What brought you in Bali in relations to real estate as well?
So first I moved to Bali to surf. I wanted to leave the corporate world, you know. I think many people do that, especially also after COVID. I moved just before COVID. I graduated from my MBA in Singapore, and I was like, I don't want to go back to a big corporation. Let's go to Bali, take a few months break. And COVID happened, and can't surf too much, so have to pay the bill. So okay, what are we going to do? I was managing hotels before. In COVID it was a bit difficult, the hospitality business in Bali. So we decided to do real estate. We a bit like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs in real estate in Bali, they come and they first try to help investors from abroad to invest in Bali, in Indonesia, because it's quite complex. We are going to talk about it.
A bridge between
exactly,
from
foreign investors, because there are a lot of things to. It's quite complex to navigate the real estate, the regulation, the law in Indonesia, in Bali in general, especially that when you're a foreigner and you don't live in Indonesia, and you hear so many different things. So at the beginning it was for me to help my network living abroad to invest in Bali, and quickly we found a piece of land and we started to think about developing a hotel. We raised some funds, and then we started a real estate agency and management company, etc. So it grew. We didn't really have the vision and no clear business plan, but it just happened. We started one company after another. So it's like one company a year. So my business partner Vincent is complaining. Like,
I can imagine. And he works full time.
He has another. No, we are full time.
Yeah, you have to be, right?
Yeah. But we have managers managing each unit. So it's not like 5 different businesses. It's more like, synergies between the businesses.
Okay.
But so now we do pretty much everything around real estate in Bali.
Okay. And so let's talk a bit about your current project and what's your experience, because you say you're developing, but you're also managing. What's your experience with those projects? Maybe you can tell us a bit more about that.
So since the first company we launched, we position ourselves as the cleanest. So we do everything by the book.
What do you mean by cleanest?
Because you hear a lot of things about investing in Bali, real estate, people getting maybe screwed, or you don't do proper due diligence on land, on properties, building permits.
You don't pay taxes.
You have a lot of, many shady things happening in Bali. So since the beginning, we're like, okay, we are going to do everything by the books, even if that means it takes more time to get things done. Like, we are building a hotel now in north of Bali, in Sidemen. It took us 3 years.
Wow. to approve the permits and everything.
To get everything. 3 years.
3 years.
But now everything is clean. We started to build, and we will probably open
So-
by end of next year. But
so
it takes time.
It's an interesting thing you just said. You approved the permits before you started any constructions, which in Bali you see most of the, or some, let's say 40 to 50% of the current projects that are off plan start without the building permit. So can you tell us a bit more of that?
Which is illegal.
It's
So
illegal
It's illegal, yeah.
Okay.
You can go to jail. Well,
by the law.
by the law, you can go to jail.
Okay.
So it's that's what we try to try to explain to investors and to explain to people who want to invest in Bali. Like there are rules. Like if you invest in France, you
Yeah.
have to follow the rules, right?
But-
and usually people come to Bali and they think that it's different. Why, I don't know, but it's different. It's Indonesia, so you can just
Do your own
do
stuff.
your thing,
Yeah.
go around, but actually you cannot.
Yeah.
And
But what
it's
about-
not
so-
dangerous.
So previously there was, and there still is, the IMB, which is the main building permit,
Yes.
and then you have the new version of the
Yes.
IMB, which is called SLF-PGB,
The PBG. Yeah.
PBG,
Yeah.
and then the SLF part. What I've understood from what we've read and what we've been informed on is that you can get the SLF and you're certified once the building is at 90% or over
So
construction.
if you want to do, like, if you want to follow the law, how it works is you have to apply for the PBG, the PBG, before you start touching the land. So you do all the plan, the architecture, and then you go to you apply online, and you have to present your project to pitch.
Yeah,
with
like
your
anywhere around the
architect
world.
everywhere,
Yeah.
structure everything. Then the government says, okay, good to go, and then you can start touching the land.
Okay.
And then you build.
Okay.
And then after 90%, you go back to the commission and be like, hey guys, we're almost finished. Can you come? They come, they check, and then they give you the SLF.
Okay.
That's the way to do it. What happened is when they moved from the IMB to the PBG in 2021, they needed to sometimes there was a lot of properties without the IMB. So they were like, okay, look, continue to build. When you reach 90%, we will give you the SLF. But what many developers did, because they didn't want to get through the hassle of applying to the PBG, because it can take months, they're like, oh, I'm just going to build, and then I'm going to apply for the SLF when I reach 90%, which by law it's illegal. But it worked the last few years, because
Okay.
there were some, they were taking time to apply the regulations, but it's getting more and more control now. And we can see already a few projects that has been stopped.
Really?
Because they don't have the PBG.
But so what happens?
By law, it's illegal. If you start building without the PBG,
Yeah.
it's illegal
Yeah.
by law. You can say whatever you want. You can. It's just.
But what
it's
about the
illegal.
ones that have been approved for the SLF or that been approved the process but aren't at that 90% stage and are waiting for the
But-
approval at
So
90%?
by law, it's illegal because you cannot build.
Then how come all these projects are still validated for SLF and when they're
It's not-
finished
it's not validated. It's like until you reach 90%, you cannot apply to the SLF, so you're illegal. That's
until the 90%, until
then
you've
you reach
applied?
90%, and then you apply to SLF,
Okay,
and then you hope that you will get the SLF.
okay.
But there are, let's say, the law and the reality.
Yeah,
And the reality
Like practice
before
and
was
theory,
like a bit less, maybe less control, but it's getting harder and harder to play around.
okay.
So,
Well, harder and harder for developers to play around,
should
but
not play
safer
around.
and safer for buyers to invest in Bali, right?
yeah.
When rules apply. So
Yeah, and it's. I mean, there is a law, and you need to follow the rules. So I'm always amazed by people, especially foreigners, coming to Bali and doing their own things that
Yeah.
are against the law.
yeah,
And you're like, will you do that in your own country? Like, even if you don't like that, maybe it's gonna take 6 months. It took us 3 years
Yeah.
to get all the permits for a hotel. But you know, some investors are like, oh, maybe you can. It's like, no, we cannot. Like, there is the law, and we follow the law. And either we like it or not. That's how it works. And if you're not happy, you don't live in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
So let's go to another theme. How or why would you say, what would attract an investor to invest in Bali? What would be the main reason for them to invest, and what would be, why would they do that?
To me, there are three main things. The first one is the brand, the Bali brand. It's very strong. When you look at all the, award and all the survey and travel, and everybody wants to go to Bali once in their lifetime. You have everything in
twice.
Bali. Or twice. Or you come and you stay.
Or you stay like us, right?
But it's amazing. Like, I'd give you an example. Last week, I live in 𝐘𝐿𝐶, so I surfed on the morning. Then I had meeting in Ubud. So I was having a lunch in the rice fields in Ubud. And then on the afternoon, I was driving to Bedugul. And I stayed in Bedugul at night. It was 15 degrees in the mountains.
That's so nice.
In one day, you can surf in the morning, be in the rice field for lunch, and in the mountains, at night, you have so many things to do.
And you don't need AC to sleep, which is amazing, right? Yeah.
And so I think there are so many things that Bali has to offer. That you come and you don't need to take the flight, and you stay here for 2 weeks. You can do so many things. You can go to Lembongan, to Nusa Penida, see the Manta Ray. You can go to Ubud for the culture, see them, and
so a very diverse offer of services, landscapes.
So it attracts tourists. And if you look at the number of tourists in 2024, it's already higher than 2019. So in 2 years since Bali reopened in March 2022, we already reached the level of tourism in 2019. So people they come back. And also, when you think about Bali as foreigner, you think about Australian, European, Americans, but actually the 80% of the tourists in Bali, 65% are Indonesian. Locals.
Right.
From Java.
That surprised me,
Jakarta,
but it's true.
65%. And they have money. Like in
Oh,
Jakarta, I'm in Jakarta
sure.
every month. I think now there are more millionaires in Indonesia than in Europe.
What?
Almost. Yeah, it's really rich.
And that's a really surprising stat.
270 million people in Indonesia, the fastest growing class after China and India worldwide. GDP grows 5 to 6% a year. This year there is now we are in deflation in Indonesia, so no inflation, and Indonesia will probably be in the G7 in 2040.
G7, wow.
Yeah. So another reason to invest in Indonesia is the growing middle class. And remember, in France, 30 years ago, you had the middle class in Paris or in France started to earn money. You have your small apartments. What do you want to do? You want to go on holiday. You want to buy a small apartment in Nice or in Bordeaux. Or that's what's happening in Indonesia today. And a lot of buyers come from Jakarta, Surabaya, Yogyakarta, and that's super strong. If you go to Nusa Penida, it's
only Jakarta, right?
Indonesia, China,
India. Mainly.
If you take China, Indonesia, and India, 80-85% of the tourists.
That's
and
crazy.
It's growing. So I mean, Asia is the future of the world anyway. So it's another reason to invest. And I think I would say the third one is, if you think about returns on real estate, if you look at the price of apartments in Singapore, it's 1.5 million. In Dubai now, it's 300 or 400K for a single apartment. In Paris, it's crazy as well. In Bali, for 250K, you have a 2 or 3 bedroom villa. And what we see now with the villa we manage around 45 properties now around Bali and Lombok. And the returns are net. We are talking about net. We are around 8 to 10%.
Yeah, which is really good.
Which is probably 4 times higher than what you get in Paris.
So I'd like to rebound for that. You're comparing to buying property in other countries, but when you refer to lower price here, it's corresponding to leasehold system versus maybe a system where in other countries you buy for life. So what is the danger for a foreigner to buy? Is it safe to buy leasehold? Is it still a good thing? Because a lot of people are thinking, okay, I want still capital gains, appreciation of my the value of the thing I buy, the villa I buy, to resell it later on. But the leasehold goes down, so is it a safe thing?
Well, legally it's safe.
Yeah.
If you do a proper due diligence. So work with the right agents, like Matthieu here, doing proper due diligence. So that's the first thing. If it's done properly, then it's safe. It's protected by Indonesian law, it's notarized, and it's you're protected. Of course, you're in Indonesia, there are sometimes some loophole, but it's mostly safe if the due diligence is done and if you have a good lawyer. But you have to see it as an investment, because I think especially for us European, we need to own. The thing is like, it's mine. But first, do you own property for 30 years in France? Not sure. And you have to see it as an investment vehicle. You will not put your retirement fund in a villa in Bali. Most of the investors, they already have other assets, and they invest in Bali to have a higher return or to diversify their portfolio. And again, if you do things properly, you can probably hope to get 8, 10, 12% return. And also, so the lease, for instance, usually it's between 25 to 30 years. What we see in Bali is that you can extend the lease when you negotiate with the owners. And what happens usually is, like, let's say you take the lease for 30 years, and then after a few years you go back to the owner, you negotiate, can I buy back 3 years? You go back to the notary, you add 3 years, so you are 27, you go back to 30.
So you regulated.
30, and when you look at the real estate, the history of the data in Bali, the real estate market never really went down. Even during the bombing, even the last 30 to 35 years, always stable or going up. So what we've seen is if you have more than 20 years lease, then the value doesn't really depreciate. Why? Because you have a lot of people who want to invest in Bali. It's a cash market, so once people especially foreigners, when they buy, they own the assets. So it's not like they have to pay their mortgage or so they have it. So it's you have less pressure on the prices.
Impact from
That's what we see.
diverse.
That's what we've seen during COVID. People were like, "Oh, COVID, the market will." Actually, it didn't, because people, they already paid their property, their properties. They were sitting on it. They didn't make.
There's no impact from funds, banks.
I paid it already, it's like it's like a saving account. Not touching it. Bali will reopen. That's exactly what happened.
And it went up crazy.
From 22 to 24. In 23, it was crazy.
But still, even though the market
crazy.
Prices went up. And we
now
see
it's stabilized.
It stabilizes, but even though it stabilizes, we see it with our sales here. We continue on selling. There's so much the interest of people wherever they come from in the world is just rising every day, and it was to a surprise for me. Even though that the market prices were pretty high compared to what they were before, people still are very interested into investing.
I have many friends in Singapore and Dubai. And Dubai, they start to tax revenue now, and income also on rental, and so they were investing a lot in Dubai, and now they are coming to Bali to diversify their investments, because now in Dubai, apparently, I don't know anything about real estate in Dubai, but apparently the returns went down, and you are 4 or 5%, and an apartment is 350K USD from what I understood. So it's still quite competitive in Bali.
So okay. We talked about Bali, but Indonesia is not only Bali, right? So is there
Bali
any?
is part of Indonesia.
Bali is part of Indonesia, but
remember.
exactly. But so, is there any other area in Indonesia where you think it's interesting to invest as well, or are you only focusing on Bali? What's the
So
tip?
I think it depends on your risk appetite, I will say. Bali is relatively safe because it's a lot of foreigners, and it's quite, now the notaries are good lawyers, good agencies, so it's quite easy to buy your property and to be safe if you work with the right people. If you go in some more like wild areas, like we are talking about Sumbawa, Rote, Lombok, Flores, it's more difficult. The return will probably be higher.
Because the price today is lower.
But it's always like risk. And if you don't live in Indonesia, it can be you need to work with the right people. But what we see now, there is a big appetite for, well, first Nusa Lembongan and Nusa Penida.
For sure.
The two highlands we develop in Penida. The two highlands close to Bali, and Lombok. There is some appetite. We started to manage properties there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And Flores is huge. At the moment, Bajo, Flores. That's where everybody is like, let's go there. And then you have Sumbawa, Rote. But I think it's more like 5-10 years. But Flores lately, that's where
it's been. I've been there myself a month ago. And I was quite surprised by the number of big chain hotels that were around the port of Flores, Lebuan Bajo, which is pretty crazy. I had no idea it was as developed as it was. So very interesting spot too.
It's always like going back to Indonesia. It's 270 million people, huge middle class, growing. They have 10,000 islands. And the government, new governments with Prabowo, they want to diversify and push on other islands than just Bali. Like 5-6 years ago, they launched that plan of the 10 new Bali, where you had like Lombok, Flores, and also Yogyakarta. And now I think they want 5 new Bali. But they definitely,
you have to dream big, huh?
They definitely want to push tourism, not only in Bali but on other islands. But if it's your first time investing in Indonesia,
I would go for Bali at the beginning.
At least you.
As a safer bet,
Even like I live in Indo for 8 years. If I wanted to invest in Rote or Sumbawa tomorrow, I don't know how I will do that.
You have to go on the spot.
It's completely different market, completely different game, completely different culture. Even if it's the same country, different regencies.
But that's what made Bali come out of all the islands. It's the culture here that's different. I think due to religion, that's we're in a Hindu island compared to the rest of Indonesia. Well, that's mostly Muslim. Coming back to Bali again, what would be your couple of tips to a new investor as to what I need to watch out for when I invest in Bali?
I think taking the time to do a proper research and due diligence is very important. I will talk to different agencies, different property management companies. I will try to understand how it works. We talked about the building permits, for instance, knowing what to check and what to ask to developers or agencies or property managers to make sure that you reduce the risk, right? So I think that will be the first thing. Second thing, I will say, don't listen to people. Make your own opinion, because there are so many people in Bali, they don't know what they are doing in real estate. They have no clue about the building permits, no clue about the taxes to be paid, no clue about like everything. And people, there are a lot of noise around real estate in Bali. A lot of
real estate wannabes kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And promising like huge returns.
And that's why I'm going to cut through. This is exactly why you come to Bali Exception to invest in Bali, to have the best team available to answer all your questions and to address the right people for developing the property of your dreams.
Beautiful.
Voilà.
But yeah, I think taking the time, doing a proper due diligence, trying to follow or find information from people who do not really have something to say to sell. Like for instance, I started to post regularly on LinkedIn 3 times a week, and I just share everything. I don't care. The businesses work well. We raise money for the different projects, and we try to be as transparent as possible on everything, just to, because I've seen people cry in our office because they lost everything, because they didn't do a proper due diligence and they lost their land, they lost their property, and it's really sad, obviously. So we try to be as transparent as possible. I mean, today you cannot say that you didn't know. You just go on Google, you ask ChatGPT, and you have all the information available in all different languages. So take your time. It's like
don't rush it.
Crypto, no? Like if you meet someone in a bar, it's like, oh, you have to buy this cryptocurrency right now because otherwise you are going to miss out. If you do it, then you take a risk, right?
A big risk.
But it's the same. Like I met people like smart executives, were big career abroad, very smart. They came to Bali, just did like
exactly the
stupid
contrary
investments, really stupid.
Because probably it's cheaper for them, right? And they're like, oh, it's okay. And then when they finally lose it, they're like,
I don't know. I think the way I see it also is, I don't know. I think people kind of lose their brain when they come to Bali.
Okay.
And just seeing that
it's
it's Bali, it's easy, and I can trust people because everybody's smiling and everybody is nice. But you just need to do some research.
Okay, so research, and then to find out of all the villas, like maybe some tips in terms of design, location, or.
So I think if we try to like really the 101 of investing in Bali, I will say the first will be to understand how to be legal. So what you need to be legal. Like for instance, our management company at 𝐂𝐿𝐶, we refuse almost 70% of people contacting us because they don't have the proper permits. That's the first question I ask. Can you help us managing our property? Sure. Do you have the building permit? Oh, no, I don't.
We've had that same issue listing people, and I've had to refuse 2 or 3 properties already this month that wanted to sell without a building permit.
So, exactly. So I will start with knowing what first you need to have, the permits. Then if you want to rent it out, understand what are the taxes to be paid in Indonesia, and if you are a tax resident abroad. So you don't have any surprises on that part. And then it's real estate. So back to the basics, location. What we see now with our villas, under management, interior design, super important, especially with the Asian market. Instagram, taking picture everywhere. So it's
make it look sexy.
Really, really important. Quality of construction. If you buy off plan, due diligence on the developer, make sure that they have some track record, make sure that they do things properly as well. Work with an agency to make sure that there are payment plans, installments.
That you're protected through the buying process.
And the contract. And also, what I also say is like, don't be cheap. Like if you buy a 300K property, just pay a lawyer or an agency to do a proper due diligence on the land, on the property. If it costs 500 euros, pay it. Because, I mean, you are investing for...
it's your money.
200. So, don't be cheap.
Yeah.
And you're not in your country. So...
Yeah.
But yeah, location, especially now that we talked a lot lately about overdevelopment in Bali. Too many projects.
So that's going to be
everywhere.
the next theme.
Yeah. So just make sure the location makes sense, and the numbers make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. The numbers. Talk to different agencies. Do your research.
Yeah. Okay. So there's been a lot of development lately in Bali, like crazy compared to a couple of years. Where do you see Bali going in 10 years? 5 years. Let's start with 5 years, then go for 10 years, and then
Okay. Well, difficult to say. I don't want to be. I'm not part of the pessimists.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, Bali is doomed, and I think, well, what we've seen lately with the moratorium, a lot of controls lately. I've seen that on PMAs, on investors' quitas, on tax, on everything, building permits that we mentioned before. So there is a sense of urgency in Bali and in Indonesia that it has to be more controlled. I don't think anyone wants to stop everything for years, but it has to be more controlled, of course, for sure. Because when you see how Canggu or Uluwatu, the two hottest places at the moment, has been developed without really thinking about
sustainable long-term
electricity, the road access, all the infrastructure, it's scary. It's and at the end it doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't benefit the investor. It doesn't benefit the locals. It doesn't benefit the people living in Bali. It's really like a lose game. Maybe you have a few developers making some money.
Yeah.
But, so I hope that there will be more controls, and it will develop in a more sustainable way. They launched the MRT, the construction of the MRT. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
But there might be a subway one day in Bali.
Yeah.
The new president mentioned a new airport in the north. Again, as long as
it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, it's been like 15 years. So they started a road as well from the north to the south. They understand now the urgency. Let's hope that it's real. Yeah. So I think Bali will remain, but like the brand is very, very strong, and
So-
people. I think also the tourism will switch. As we mentioned before, much more Asian,
Yeah.
local, Chinese, Indian that are replacing a little bit the old market like Europe, US, Australia. So there will be a switch as well. I mean, when you go to Jakarta or in China, or in India, you get stuck in traffic for hours and hours and hours.
Not
So,
any different, you know. Yeah.
yeah, right. And it's just a different kind of
Density.
tourism.
Yeah.
But I mean, living in Bali, the traffic sometimes is pretty bad.
Yeah.
But
But you get used to it. It's not
but
too bad.
the lifestyle is still it's still good. I mean, if you
Impeccable,
compare to when I lived before in Singapore, in Europe, or in Paris, the quality of life in Bali is still, in my opinion, much higher.
Much higher for sure.
So you will have people coming here for sure. But hopefully, I think there will be a lot of challenge regarding water, electricity, waste management.
Yeah, the
So
waste
it's-
management is definitely an issue here, because people have not been, let's say locals have not been educated on that subject either, where we have the habit back in Europe of saying, okay, this kind of trash goes in this bin, this goes in this bin, and yeah.
But also need to be careful because it took us 50 years to arrive at that level in Europe. Like if you look at the in TV shows in the 70s in France, you could see people throwing stuff on the highway when they're going for holiday.
Here?
So no, in France in
Oh,
the
in
70s.
France. Oh yeah,
so
in
it's
the
like
70s.
Indonesia today is
Yeah.
a bit like Europe 30, 40 years ago. So it's easy also to judge,
To compare
to
from
compare, to judge from
yeah.
our European experience, where I mean,
I think they have other struggles. Let's say in Europe, maybe in the priorities now, climate change and other things towards that, and waste management. In Bali, like I feel like some of them is how to feed my kid tomorrow more, or how to bring them to school, or because I'm super busy, you know. So we have to also think about that, and not accuse people here of not.
No,
it's just not in the culture.
And also, I think it's good to remember that we are guests here.
Yeah.
We are guests. Like it's not our country.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are welcomed.
Yeah.
And going back to the laws and regulation, culture, we are here also to hopefully bring some benefits and
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
be part
yeah.
of the community. And it's our responsibility as well to be involved in the community and bring some benefits. But let's just we are guests here, so it's also for the responsibility of government, locals, whoever, to take care of that. We are here to support, but
yeah.
big
Okay,
challenge.
guys. Well, I think we'll end on that beautiful note. And if you have any questions, just let them in the comments. And don't forget to, of course, subscribe on our channel. And thank you, Mathieu, for this.
Thank
it
you,
was
Mathieu.
a pleasure. And see you soon, yeah?
See you very soon. Yes.
See you.
Yeah.